I'm going to post this as a link to my last video. It's the sacrifice of Isaac, chapter 22 of Genesis. So that when people are talking about this, and I would like to talk about this, and what this really means, and what this story in the Bible, what its purpose is exactly. As someone who doesn't believe in the Bible, but certainly read it a lot and had to read it when I was growing up, the sacrifice of Isaac was something that I always questioned. That's why I've read so much commentary on it. And other people are telling me that Abraham was in on this and that he didn't know that he was not going to be required to sacrifice his son. So I'm going to read this as unbiasedly as I'm capable of reading it, because I do have a bias about this. And I do think that this is just used so often as propaganda to make fundamentalists accept anything uncritically, that I just want to read it. And I'm doing my best not to put a bias, believe it or not. Okay, here it is. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. He said, Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy will go there and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. He said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went, both of them, together. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. He said, Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, The Lord Will Provide. As it is said to this day, On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this, and you have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your offspring shall all of the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived in Beersheba. Through verse 22, there are 2 more verses, but it's all about the male heirs to the Abraham's legacy, and his brother's male descendants, both via his wife and his concubine. It's the usual biblical stuff, basically. So that's it. And if you are going to claim that Isaac knew, or that Abraham knew, that he wasn't just blindly following something that no one would have asked him to do, no sane, rational entity, being, deity asks you to do that, in my opinion. If you have another opinion, you're going to have to do a lot of convoluted interpretation to be able to support that. And I've read a lot of commentary about this, and I've come to the conclusion that this is just an indoctrination device. It really is. So, of unquestioning obedience. This is about unquestioning obedience to authority. So that's it. Bible lesson for today is over, boys and girls. So take care of yourselves. Talk to you later. Bye.